guys, the Aussie Villa, and welcome to episode 132 of Raise the Holte, our final episode of the series. What we're going to do is we're going to skip ahead. We'll skip ahead maybe 5 years and then probably 10 years as well, and just see exactly where the squad goes, where this team goes once we have stepped down. I thought we'd have a quick look to start with at sort of the manager screen. Apparently I can't coach goalkeepers, but that's okay. Everything else there was pretty good. We have a quick look at our overall history at the club. 474 games played, 295 wins, just short of the 300, 88 draws, 91 losses, 918 goals for goals against. There you can see 476, and the goal difference of plus 442 goals. We'll take that. Win percentage of 62% is pretty solid. You can see our record there. 8 cups we won, 5 leagues, and 1 promotion, of course, that very first year at the club. We bought in 50 players valued at 610 million. We sold 53 valued at 434 million. It's not bad considering what we did with the club. What we actually spent, rough maths, was at 140 odd million. I don't think that's too bad. We paid 76 million to agents. Our largest transfer fee was the 99 million pounds we paid for Jan Forster. That's a lot of money for a centre back. We did get 50 million, of course, for Mason Holgate as our biggest transfer coup. But yeah, I think we did pretty well. Now, before we step down, I am kind of trying to put off the inevitable here because it's going to be a sad day when we go. I thought what we'd do is we would go through my team of the save for our time at Aston Villa. Alright, I'm going to have to read off some notes here that I've made, but this is what I think is our team of the save. Let's start with goalkeeper, and really, there's only two. There's only two real options. We had Moreira the first year in the championship, but he never established himself. It's between Gaz Mosley and Dominic Livakovic, and it could go either way, but I just feel like we won more with Gaz. So Gaz Mosley gets the nod for me in goal. 147 appearances he made for me, and I just think he did a really, really good job. So Gaz Mosley is the goalkeeper of the series. Left back. Now, left back is a strange one. There is a number of left backs that we used. I cut it down to sort of 3 and 1. I think Matty Targett, we had him early on, and he was a solid left back for us, as was Mubida as well. He did really well, a really good attacking outlet for us. Emerson was good, but we only really had him for a season. But I've had to go with, he was the best player for us. Modiba almost got it, to be honest. I really, really thought, when I look back at how he did for us, he was really good in the early days, but it's got to be Nepo. 102 appearances, 2 goals. He is my left back. The right sides, there's really only 2. We had 2 sort of first choice right backs. They were Bree and Kosic. Fiorini was a good right back, but he never really established himself ahead of the other 2. Bree was good for what he was when we had him, but again, Borjan Kosic for me is the right back. 96 appearances, no goals though for Borjan, but Kosic gets the nod at right back. If we look at centre backs, we had a few decent ones. Honourable mentions, I'm going to say Mason Holgate, who was quite good when we first got promoted. Christopher AR was a good utility player, but he's always a solid centre-back for us as well. Jan Forster, 99 million pounds. He was good as well, but the 2 that I'm giving the nod to is, first up is Rodrigo, who made 111 appearances, 12 goals, always popped up with a goal when we needed him as well. He was class. We bought him as a youngster. I think he came to the club at 18, became a Brazilian international and one of the best centre-backs in the world at Aston Villa. And the other one, I'm going to give it to Callum Chambers. We signed him first year in the Premier League. He was club captain for a number of years. He made 180 appearances for us, scored 9 goals, and I just think he is a massive part of getting to where we got to. So for me, it's Callum Chambers and Rodrigo as the 2 centre-backs. If we move forward, now I'm going to go with an attacking midfielder and not a DM in this one. So if we're looking at sort of 2 sort of regular central midfielders, honourable mentions here, I'm going to say John McGinn, who was really, really good for us again in those early days. He was just a good, solid player for us, wasn't he? Another sort of nod to Conor Horahan as well, who in the early days was very, very solid for us. Ronan Leroy, more latterly, has been a good player for us, as has Alpha Silla. Until Alpha Silla almost got in there. And I think if we played another 2-3 years with him in the form and the direction that his career is taking, I think Alpha Silla probably would have got into this midfield. But the two that I've gone with, first up as a defensive midfielder is Sandro Tonali. I just feel like we bought him, I think, first year in the Premier League. He was brilliant for us. I have 189 appearances from him, 8 goals. Just always a good, solid player for us. And the other one, there can only be Super Jack, can't it? He just flourished. The fact that he is still, at the end of the series, considered a first-team player by myself, and I'm sure you guys as well. Maybe just starting to lose out to Alpha Silla, but still very, very good. 235 appearances for us, 32 goals. Super Jack gets a nod in midfield there with Tonali. If we look at the attacking midfielder, I think we've got to give an honourable mention to Phil Foden, who we had in those first 2 years. He did a really, really good job for us. Ultimately, though, he didn't stay. He wasn't probably here long enough to be considered. And I think another honourable mention for Pedro Enrique. And again, a bit like Alpha Silla, I think if we'd played another 2-3 years, he may well have got into this team. But I can only give it to Thiago Almeida. Hasn't been good the last season and a half or so, but we've got to remember before that he single-handedly carried us to trophies. 144 goals, 51 goals for Thiago. I think he was a brilliant player for us. As I said, it just hasn't quite kicked on the last few years, but he is the number 10 for me. If we look at the left side of midfield, there's only really 2 men that we can consider. I did think of Andre Green, who we used in the early days. Ultimately, though, he didn't establish himself, so we can't really choose him. It can only really be between Rodrigo and Marin. And let's face it can only be Antonio Marin, can't it? He was with us the entire journey. I'm pretty sure we signed him in the Championship. 228 games, 84 goals from a left winger. Absolutely amazing. Antonio Marin, he's almost, if I was picking a player of the save, I think I'd have to go with Antonio Marin as well. He was just that good for us. If we look at the right side of midfield, a couple of honourable mentions. Lazar Markovic, again, in the early days, we can't underestimate his role in getting us to where we got to, basically. In those first few years in the Premier League, he was decent to good for us. And Nick Roberts played a lot of games for us. Never really first choice, so it's difficult to sort of give him the nod ahead of the man who's going to get here, and I think we all know who it is. But it was a really, really solid player for us. So Nick Roberts gets a very, very honourable mention, but it can only be Rashid Umgar, can't it? Absolutely magical. 92 games, 39 goals, and again, I'm looking forward to seeing when we skip ahead here exactly where his career goes, because he could be anything, I think. That brings us to striker, and this was a tough one. I'm going to give a few honourable mentions here. I think we've got to give an honourable mention to Lionel Messi. He came in, and I kind of signed him as, not a joke, but it's just because I wanted to have Messi at Villa. And that first year, he was nothing short of sensational. Scored goals, got the assists, was excellent in the build-up play. Ultimately, just wasn't at the club long enough to get the nod. And the other honourable mention goes to Borja Mayoral. That first 6 months that we signed him, he looked a worldie, didn't he? He was brilliant. 18 goals, I think he scored before Christmas. And he just fell off a cliff. I don't really know what happened to him. But yeah, I think he's definitely worth a mention. But the two that it came down to Lobadovic, the Lab, and Rodrigo as well. I can't split them, to be honest. I love the Lab. I really, really do. But I just feel like the last few seasons, maybe he dropped off. And Rodrigo was a class act. So almost regrettably, I'm going to give it to Rodrigo ahead of the Lab. But yeah, I do love the Lab. But Rodrigo, 125 games, 61 goals. Now, granted, some of those are from the left side of midfield or the left wing, which is, again, kind of why I think maybe we should have given it to the Lab. And even as I'm talking now, I'm not sure that it should be Rodrigo ahead of the Lab, but I'm going to give it to Rodrigo. And so there we go. So the team of the save, we have Gaz Mosley in the keeper. It's Nepo, Chambers, Rodrigo, and Kosic as the back four. It's Grealish and Tonali in midfield. Almeida's the number 10. It's Marin and Rashid down the wings, and it's Rodrigo up top. Let me know what you think of that in the comments, guys, but that is my team of this Aston Villa series. Alright, I think the time has come. We won't retire. What we'll do is we will resign from our position. Now, who's going to step down with us? Oh, this hurts. This really, really hurts. Oh, goodbye, my love. Alright, so let's see. Who are the favourites here to take over from us? We have got Pep Guardiola, Antonio Conte, or Sergio Conceição. So some big names. There are some big names there that are linked with the job. It's a good job in football. Let's see, a mass exodus, though, with us. Who has come with us? Staff members. So we are Darren Robinson, our fitness coach, one of our coaches. Stig Burnaby, the Stig's left with us. Warren Joyce is left with us. Another fitness coach. Wow, we have pretty much cleared out the entire backroom staff. Thanks, guys, but you stepped down for no reason because there is no job here for you anymore. So, that being done, let's skip ahead 5 years. Who's going to take over from us? How are they going to do? What's going to happen with Marin and Silla and Grealish and Gaz Mosley, all the youngsters? We'll check out on how all our academy regens after you go as well. But first things first, let's skip ahead 5 years. Alright, we are now 5 years in the future. I don't look like I've aged a day, do I? Let's have a quick look here. Now we can see Zidane is the manager. Silla and Rodrigo are still there, as is Fiorini's a key player now. Interesting. So where do we start here? Let's go and have a look at... Let's have a look at the players, first of all. Let's see if there's any familiar faces here. Gaz Mosley still at the club. Excellent. Kostic, Rodrigo still there. Casey back, Silla. We'll have a look at all these guys, how they're developed in a minute. Enrique, Chris Hughes is still there. Chris Hughes has scored 29 goals this past season. Fiorini, we know there. Gary Turpie is still there. Excellent stuff. Nepo, Rodrigo, Rashid is still there. I don't see Marin. That's disappointing. Is there anybody else in the reserves? No. So everybody else looks like they've been moved on. But let's not panic at that too much. All right, now let's go and have a look now at the history. Let's go and look at competitions. Let's see how we've been doing here. Let's start with domestic leagues. Now look at that. You know what we should do first of all, actually, is have a look at our managers. How do I do that? History managers would be a good place to start, wouldn't it? So we left, and Zidane came in, and Zidane has pretty much just been there ever since. So he's done a really, really good job. All right, so let's now go back and have a look at... So where did we won 4 in a row, didn't we? 1, 2, 3, 4. So Zidane came in, 1, 2... Got to 4th at a bit of an off year, but then this season just gone 95 points, which actually beats anything we've ever done. So Sneaky Zinedine has had a really, really good year there. So that's good to see. Let's have a look now at Champions Leagues. And we've won some more, have we? Because okay, here we go. What year did we leave? We won 3 in a row, didn't we? So they lost. So we've won it 2 more times under Zidane, which is excellent. So that now makes us 6 times. We've won 1 already, 4, 5, 6-time European champions. In the 5 years since we left, they've won it twice. Lost a quarterfinal, a semi-final, and a quarterfinal. So Zidane has definitely carried on our legacy, which is good. So FIFA World Cups, we would have played in a few of those, and we've won a few more of those as well. Another 2. So we've won that 5 times, which must be getting close to the record, wouldn't it? Because is that close? Is that actually the record? Can we go to FIFA World Club Cup? Can we go to records? Most times won, Aston Villa. Go on, boys. Go on. So it's good to see legacy continuing there. So that's the FIFA World Club Cup. I don't think we care about the Super Cup. We haven't played in the Europa League, have we? No, that was just the 1 year that we were in there. FA Cup. We've won that once. Also, Dan has won that once since we've left. We've lost a semi-final, lost to Wolves in a final. What's going on there, Zidane? And we've lost in a semi-final as well. So they've had a pretty good record in that, and obviously not just playing the youngsters, so I'm going to cling to that. EFL Cup, we've won an EFL Cup as well. We've lost in the 4th round semi-finals. We lost a final to Derby County, lost a final to Everton as well. So we've had a pretty good record in the Cups under Zidane, so I think that's good. The 5 years, it's good to see that we've progressed, isn't it? That the club is still right there. Now let's go and have a look at the players that are still at the club. Gaz Mosley, looking good. That's pretty much where we left him in terms of attributes. 85 caps for England now for Gaz. And how's he been doing? Pretty well, hasn't he? Been doing pretty well, I would say, in the 5 years since we left. Looks like he's essentially been first choice, so that's excellent to see. Borzan Kosic, let's have a quick look at him. He is roughly the same as well. He's got 79 caps now for Germany. Quick look, and he has not really been first choice. Now, we did see Fiorini was the key player, so maybe he's dropped out a little bit to him. Rodrigo, 70 caps now for Brazil. He's 29 years old. He's been at the club forever, hasn't he? He really, really has been. In the 5 years since we left, he's essentially been first choice, but you would expect that because he is one of, if not the best centre-back in the world. Casey Beck. What a player Casey Beck is. Look at that. Look at those attributes. Look at those mental attributes as well. 29 caps for England, 1 goal. Well done, Casey. And if we have a look here, has he overtaken Nepo? Now, Nepo was still there, right? We did see him, yeah. So we'll go back and see how he is doing. Alpha Silla. Still here as well. Excellent to see. 95. He's 29 now as well. 95 caps, 25 goals. Well, we'll look at that for a season. 11 goals, 10 assists in midfield. That's a little bit special, isn't it? So Silla's developed into the star I think we thought he was. Pedro Enrique. Pretty good. He has 46 caps, 15 goals. But how's he been doing for Villa? The 5 seasons since we left, he has been a bit of a star, hasn't he? Look at that. 13 goals, 16 assists. He's had a really, really good time of things under Zidane, so that's good to see. Chris Hughes, I thought he'd be a good player. 52 goals. It must be England's top goal scorer, or certainly close to it. He's still only 26, so he's going to be England's top goal scorer. In the fight, now we just had him for 1 year, didn't we? No, we had him for 2 years. In the 5 years since we left, no, we had him for 1 year. He has been a very, very good, consistent Premier League scorer. Look at that. What a signing. I thought he'd be a good signing, and he's proved as such. Fiorini, 81 caps, 2 goals for Italy. Look at that. He is another wonderful... Look at those mental stats. What a right back he is. He probably is better than Kostic, to be fair to him. Since Zidane's come in, looks like he's been the first choice as well, which is just about fair enough. That 68 million looks like a bit of a steal now, doesn't it? What's he worth? 60 million, and we've got a number of years out of him. Gary Turpie, 25 caps, 2 goals. Well done, Gary. You've been playing for England. A good player he developed into as well. And how's he been doing for Villa? 5 years since we left. He's been getting games. Maybe the match ratings aren't quite there since we've left, but he's been playing for England. He's not doing too bad. Nepo. Let's have a look here at Nepo. I mean, he's still a wonderful player. Maybe mentally he's not quite as good as Casey Back. I wonder if that's held him back a little bit. The 5 years, it looks as though he started off first choice, but he's been gradually fading further and further from first choice. He's 28, so he's in his prime. He's on 225 grand a week as well. Old Nepo. Now, Rodrigo, our attacker Rodrigo, he is still as good as ever, isn't he? What a player he's been. Let's have a look here. The 5 years he's been playing. It looks like first choice or near enough to it. Been getting the goals, the assists, playing well. Again, to get him for just under 50 million, that looks like a steal now. And Rashid, the last of the boys that were there, he is still just a good, solid winger, isn't he? 119 caps for him now. He's 30 years old. Rashid is 30. Look at this. So the year after we left, believe it or not, he actually had his best year for the club with 13 goals. And looks like he's still maybe just starting to fall out of favour in terms of a week in, week out starter. But just still been a wonderful, wonderful player for the club. So that is that. Now let's go and have a look at transfers and see what has been happening. Now what we'll do is we'll start back on players released just to make sure we don't miss anybody going back to where we left. This is that crappy defender that I signed, isn't it? What did he end up doing? Absolutely nothing. What a waste of money he was. Anyway, focus. No players released there. No players released there. What year did we leave? Messi retired. So that must be our last year there, is it? Let's go to all transfers. Yes, that was our last year. So let's go and have a look. So Dali left. So when Zidane came in, Dali left for 12.25. The Lab left straight away. 14.5 to Crystal Palace. He's at Club Brugge still. What sort of career has he had? He had a decent enough time at Palace. Good year in the Championship. Never really established himself. He's gone to Belgium and he's done okay. How old is the Lab now? 30 years old. I missed the Lab. He was a good player for us. Lee Hendry, let's see what he did. He went out on loan, so he was still at the club for a little while. He's at DC United right now in Major League Soccer. No caps for England. So he went on loan to Swansea. We saw he had a good year in the Premiership there. Then he went on loan to Fiorentina, played in Italy, but didn't really do too well. Went to MLS. We can see there the sort of career he's had in MLS. Decent enough, but that's maybe his level. He's a good MLS player, but just technically, I think maybe it didn't quite develop as much as we would have liked. Jan Forster went to Paris. Why would we sell Jan Forster? Anyway, he's at Manchester United now. What sort of career has he had? He did well, didn't he? He did really well in Paris. Signed for 127 million at Manchester United now, and it continues to just be a star. He's a good defender, isn't he? So that's Jan Forster left. Blake Scully went on loan to Fulham. Let's go and have a look at how he's gone here. Fulham, 20 goals in the Championship, then 10. So he signed for Bournemouth. Then he was on loan at Huddersfield, and then back at Bournemouth in the Championship. Look at that, 23 goals in the Championship. He's obviously a very, very good Championship player. I'd hope we'll come back in another 5 years and see how he gets on. I'd like to think he get a chance in the Premier League, old Blake Scully, because that's not bad. Harry Thomas went to Colorado Rapids on a permanent deal. He's 29 now. He's at Forest Green. So what did he do? Went to MLS. Did okay in MLS. He's been playing in League One. He just never really came along, old Harry Thomas, did he? Does he get many goals? Not really many goals there either. Bit of a disappointment. Poor old Harry. Let's continue down here. AR went to Chelsea for 29 million. Spent a year there, then went to Derby County for 40, and has done okay there. But I'm surprised that they let him go. He was a good player for us. Nick Roberts went to Bale for 13 million or thereabouts. No England caps. He's at West Brom now. Come on. He's still only 28, so we'll see what becomes of him here. Did okay in Belgium, to be fair to him. He's a good player, so I'm not surprised that he did okay. And then 1 year in the Premier League at West Brom. Hasn't quite worked out for him, perhaps. What else we got here? Paul Walker on loan to Stuttgart, off to Germany for him. He's still at Mönchengladbach, no England caps, which is maybe a shame. But did okay his year there. Was signed by Mönchengladbach, a poor first year, but he's been getting better and better by the looks of things. So Paul Walker's had a decent enough career. Almeida went out on loan. He hasn't left the club permanently. Thor was sold for £114 million. He is not that good. He's at FC Bayern now. What sort of a career has Thor had? I'll tell you what, nice little profit we made on that, isn't it? 10 million and we sold him for 114. Did not play. 114 million to Real Madrid and did not play. And then he's gone off to Bundesliga and he still hasn't really played that much. What a strange career Thor's had. Grealish. We sold Grealish and Grealish is retired. 6.5 million. He went off to Bournemouth. It looked like he must have only been there for a year. Was spent some time at Huddersfield and Saint Etienne. But yeah, he just didn't go into coaching, and that's the end of Jack Grealish at 38. Anybody else here? Bale hasn't left the club. Perrier, we had a number of good goalkeepers, but he left to go to Fulham. Just out of my own curiosity here, he's at Brighton now. He's had a good career, hasn't he? But I expected that because he's a really good player when we signed him. And David Bergkamp II, the last of the guys named after you. He is at Southampton. He has 2 England caps. Oh, there you go. David Bergkamp II got some England caps. Went on loan to the Bundesliga. Didn't really play. Went on loan to Spain. Had a decent enough time of it there. On loan to Celtic. Had a decent time of it there. 21.5 million. He went to Southampton and he's had some decent time in the Premier League. So, good career for David Bergkamp, it looks like. Anybody else? Let's see here. We go to the next one. Brian Carlos was sold to Stoke. Let's have a look here. Decent money too. Decent. He hasn't got an England cap. He's 29 now. That boat may have sailed. Had a decent year the first year under Zidane. 10 games and 3 goals. But a good Premier League striker. So maybe there's still time for that England call up for Brian. Leroy went to Barcelona for £81 million. Let's have a look at what he did. Good 17 assists the year after we left, and Zidane sold him. And then he's done okay at Barcelona as well. But again, he's a good player, so you would expect that. Anybody else here? Blake Scully, that was when he left permanently. Bale left permanently. One of our youngsters that we signed. Looks like he 109 caps, only 27. Never really developed for us, did he? But he's gone to Southampton, had a decent time of things in the Premier League. This is where Walker moved on. Anybody else we recognise here, big name-wise? We'll check Almeida in just a second. He wasn't in the squad, so he must have left. And Tonali went off to China. And he's still in China. He's making 92 grand a week. Didn't really play under Zidane. Didn't really play under us in the last year, to be fair to him. But he's gone to China and he's done okay. He's done well. Good old Tonali. So that's good to see. Next season, anybody else here we recognise? Most of them have moved on at this point, haven't they? Antonio Marin. I was wondering what happened to Antonio Marin. He went to Arsenal. He went to Arsenal for only 30-odd million. 46 caps, 9 goals now. So he's getting some caps, which is good to see. Didn't really play under Zidane, did he? Only got 1 goal, 6.8 average rating. He's gone off to Arsenal and has had a decent time of things. Oh, it's almost disappointing. I really wanted him to be a Villa, sort of do his whole career at Villa, more or less. So a little bit of a shame that Antonio Marin didn't do that. I haven't been looking at the players we've signed, to be honest, if you guys have been paying attention to that. But it looks like we had Patrick Schick at some point. Let's go again here. Our young Korean that we had come through, I thought he was going to be a superstar. Doesn't look like it really worked out for him, does it? Yeah, good championship player. That surprises me. I thought he might amount to more than that. That's nuts. That's a young midfielder, Chris Hughes, isn't it? We did have another Chris Hughes, yeah. Anybody else here? Almeida ended up going to Fiorentina for about 13-14 million. 31 years old now. No Argentine caps. That is surprising because he is one of the star wonder kids, isn't he? So we saw that he went to La Liga. That was our year, wasn't it? It did well in La Liga, came back. Zidane gave him another chance. Didn't really work out. Went off to Leicester. Went off to Stoke on loan and then to Fiorentina. And he's done okay. This was peak Almeida this time here, though, wasn't it? That was when he was carrying us to league titles. So it's a shame that his career doesn't really work out the way I kind of hoped. Where I've lost my spot here now. Fiorentina. Oh, there he is there. Okay, so anybody else here? No, doesn't look like it. And this would be the last season. Did we lose anybody this year? That, I'm assuming, is the young midfielder, Chris Hughes. The other young goalkeeper that we had. 63, rising to 82 to Barcelona. Wow, he is... I mean, he was good when we signed him. We did kind of know that. Signed him for $500,000, sold him for 63. Looks like he had one season where he kind of got a chance in the team, but he needed to move on, didn't he? He was behind Gaz, and that was never really going to change. All right, let's go and have a look now at some of the awards. What if we want to go to... what do you want to go to here? Players, I think it is, isn't it? Nope. That's not what we want to go to. Just amuse yourselves while I figure out where we want to go to see player awards. It's records, isn't it? There we go. So let's have a look here. Top goal scorers. Most goals in the season. Chris Hughes has absolutely dominated that. 1 year, Joaquin Garza. What's he like? We've got here a Mexican. He's pretty good as well, isn't he? But Chris Hughes pretty much has ruled the roost in that front. Let's have a look maybe at Fans Player of the Year. Chris Hughes. Very, very popular signing that we made there, so that's good to see. What else do we want to have a look at here? Let's go and have a look at the club profile. We've seen that, and what I want to do is go to General Legends. So Chris Hughes is a legend. Nicely done. I did make I got to be a legend. I meant to check that before he resigned, but that's good to see. Icons, any of our players. Grealish was an icon. Anybody else here we recognise? Rodrigo and Marin got to icon level. Nicely done for both of them. And favourite personnel. It's a who's who of our team, isn't it? Rodrigo, Rashid, Pablo, Enrique. I think Zilla's worth more than that. Zidane as well. Cheeky little Frenchman got in there with us. Gaz Mosley, Nepo and Kostic are all favoured personnel. Let's have a quick look. Did we end up ever getting a new stadium? No, we're still at Villa Park. Still 50,000 seater. 15-year due. Oh, here we go. Due to move into a new stadium, the George Ramsay Arena. So there is a new stadium on the way, which is good. A little bit hurt it's not called the Aussie Villain Arena because I just feel like that has a nice ring to it. But there we go. Is there anything else we want to look at here before we skip forward another 5 years? Let's have a quick look at all-time records. Is there any player here that has got any all-time records? Rashid, highest average rating. That's for a season. So that's good to see. Tammy Abraham, that record still stands. Most clean sheets, that's the Gaz Mosley record. Probably hasn't been long enough really yet for most appearances or most goals. Is there a total? It's not. You know what? I wish there was a stat for like most goals total. Oh, it's right there. There is a stat for that, and it's 215. So no one's got there yet. We'll skip forward another 5 years, and then we'll see what happens. There may not be anybody left after another 5 years, but yeah, we'll see how everybody goes. So I had intended to do this all in one go, just one episode, but it's going to be a really, really long episode if I do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop here. We will come back for another episode and we will sim ahead another 5 years, maybe even a little bit longer. We'll see if the likes of sort of Gaz and Gary Turpie, Casey Beck, if they're still going strong at Villa, we might go a little bit further and see how they end up their careers. So that's it for this episode. If you have enjoyed this, please do hit thumbs up. Let me know what you think of my team of the save, and I will see you next time. Take care.